Good day, everyone. I hope that last time when we had our discussion on the different phases of matter, you were able to grasp our topic. Now we are going to discuss STM 005 or General Chemistry 1, Module number 3, which is about identifying the properties of matter. As usual, before we begin, let us have our learning target. So at the end of this module, the learners should be able to differentiate physical and chemical properties of matter. These are the following topics that we're going to cover. So here is our lesson overview. 1. Physical properties of matter. 2. Chemical properties of matter. 3. Physical change. And then lastly, chemical change. Let us have the definition of terms, which is about the physical and chemical properties of matter. So what do you mean by physical property? So this is the characteristics of a substance that does not change its composition. So ang ibig sabihin natin kapag sinabi natin na physical property, ito yung hindi napapalitan, nababago or nag-alter yung composition or kung saan gawa yung matter. So meron tayong dalawang types. We have the intensive or the other term is intrinsic. And then we also have extensive or what we call extrinsic. So when we say intensive or intrinsic, bilugan natin yung in, ibig sabihin within. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya nakadepende sa kung gaano karami or kakonti yung amount na present doon sa substance. So it does not depend on the amount, kagaya ng color, density, hardness, melting point, freezing point, or boiling point, and other characteristics or other properties. So bakit kaya? Kasi kapag yung color ng isang bagay, kaya na ilang beses mo siyang hatiin, hindi naman magbabago yung kulay niya. Same with the hardness. Yung laki ng isang diamond, maliit man siya or malaki, it will still have the same hardness according to the Mohs scale. Laging siya pa rin ang may 10 na hardness value according to the Mohs scale. So, yun ang mga ilan sa mga examples ng intensive or intrinsic property. What about extensive? X, ibig sabihin, outside, exit, ganun, di ba? So, these are the properties of matter that depends or is dependent on the amount present. So, for example, yung weight. Magkakaibang weight ng mga objects. So, for example, nakadepende siya sa kung gaano karami, 1 kilo of bangus, 2 kilo ng bangus. So, nakadepende siya sa weight kung gaano karami. Aside from that, weight is also dependent on the gravitational force of the place. What about volume? So, when we say volume, this is the amount of space available. So, kasama si volume, si surface area. So, for example, yung papel. Yung papel, meron siyang 8.5 by 11 na surface area for the short coupon. Pero kapag finold mo yun sa dalawa, mababago na yung surface area niya kasi mababago na yung amount or space na available. Kaya, surface area is an extensive property. Same with sa length. Iba-ibang length or, for example, sa tangkad ng tao. Nakadepende yan sa value or nakadepende yan sa amount. And then other properties. So, is mass intensive or extensive? So, mass means the amount of substance present in an object. So, since nakadepende daw kasi sa amount ng substance, so mass is under extensive properties. Kung ang mass at ang weight at ang volume ay nasa extensive, paano naging intensive or intrinsic yung density ng isang object? Remember that density is equal to mass over volume. So, kahit na gaano man karami yung object, habang tumataas yung mass niya, we still have to divide it by the amount of space it takes up. So, ibig sabihin, kahit na malaki ang amount ng isang bagay, na-divide pa rin natin siya sa amount ng space na nati-take up niya. Kaya ibig sabihin, it remains the same. So density is an intrinsic or intensive property. So those are the two examples or the two classifications of physical properties. We now go to the chemical property. So when we say chemical property, it describes how the composition of a substance changes or does not change. So this is a question of magkakaroon ba ng pagbabago or i-resist niya yung pagbabago when it interacts with other substances or energy forms. For example, combustibility. So what do we mean by combustibility? This is the ability of a substance to burst into flames or to react with oxygen gas. What about reactivity? Kapag sinabi naman natin na reactivity, this is the ability of the substance to undergo a chemical reaction. And then we have stability. This is the ability of the substance to resist change when undergoing chemical reaction or when introduced with a different chemical. Toxicity. This is the ability of the substance to destroy living organisms or to poison living things, and then others. So these are the different chemical properties of matter. Now, let us try to check your understanding regarding the different properties of matter, which is either chemical or physical. So you could type in the link or scan the QR code in order to test your knowledge in the properties of matter. Okay, so let's try to test our knowledge. This is by ProProfs. So let's start. We're going to answer 10 questions here. So a marshmallow turns black when toasted too long in a campfire. So is this chemical or physical? So this is chemical property. Next, hydrogen peroxide dental strips will make your teeth whiter. So ibig sabihin magkakaroon ng reaction in order for the hydrogen peroxide to clean the teeth para mas mapaputi. So this is chemical. Next, a log of wood is chopped up with an axe into smaller pieces. Hindi nagbago ang composition ng wood, it remains the same. So this is physical. If you wash your jeans with chlorine bleach, they will fade. So mag-react in chlorine bleach with the coloring ng jeans. So this is chemical. The blue color, is this a physical or a chemical property? So this is under physical. Density, is physical or chemical? So density is under physical. To be more precise, density is under intrinsic property. Next, sour taste. So panlasa. So does it require chemical change? Hindi. It only involves the senses. So this is physical property. And aside from that, sour taste or the taste of an object is independent kung gaano karami or kakonti. Kasi yung isang patak ng suka, same lang ang lasa sa isang kutsarang suka. So this is intrinsic. Next, reacts with water to form a gas. So nagkaroon ng chemical reaction to form a gas. So this is chemical. The mass is, check all that applies. So it could be expressed in kilograms. And then it is the amount or the amount of matter contained in the object. So ang mass ba ay dependent sa gravity? Hindi siya dependent kasi iba ang dependent sa gravity. Sinulat natin yan kanina. This is weight. Kaya hindi natin i-check ito. Okay, both are correct. And then lastly, kagaya ng sinabi ko, weight is dependent on gravity. True. So that is our review for the chemical and physical properties of matter. I hope that you truly fully understood our discussion this time. Let's proceed with the skill building activity in your module. So this is activity number 1. You're going to measure the objects described in column A with the special properties of matter in column B. So dito naman nakalagay yung mga ibang properties of matter. So these are actually physical properties. So ang gagawin natin, meron tayong mga situations and then we're going to identify kung anong property ng matter ang dinedescribe. So we're going to do the first two. Okay, for number 1, Jenny likes playing with her long rubber pencil. She is fond of bending it in different angles and tying it to make a knot. So, ang possible answers dito ay elasticity and flexibility. However, when we say elasticity, ito yung kapag in-stretch out mo siya, it will return to its original shape, just like the rubber band, diba? So, number 1 is letter J. Next, number 2, Mitch and Tin played with a slinky during recess. They kept stretching its ends far away from each other, but once they let go, it goes back to its original state. Ito yung kakabanggit lang natin kanina. So, this is elasticity. Basta it has the ability to retain or to go back to its original shape, that is elasticity. I will leave you to answers number 3 to 10. Okay, and then you are going to check your own answer using the answer key at the end of the module. So let's proceed with our next topic. This time we are going to define physical and chemical change. So when we say physical change, it occurs when the physical properties of a substance are altered. Nagbago nga ang kanyang physical properties, most likely the extrinsic properties. Kasi di ba ito yung dependent kung gaano kalaki or kung gaano kaliit, kung gaano karami or kung gaano kakonti. But the composition remains the same. So hindi pa rin nababago ang kanyang composition. So that means since the composition remains the same, no new substance will be formed in a physical change. So for example, cutting or folding or tearing up a piece of paper. So dun sa papel, unti-unti nga siyang lumiliit, pero yung kanyang composition, hindi pa rin nababago. Lumiliit nga yung kanyang size, pero hindi nagbabago ang kanyang chemical makeup or chemical properties. Next, we have chemical change. This is chemical. So when we say chemical change, it changes or it alters, binabago niya yung identity ng substance once it has undergone a chemical reaction. So in order for something to be considered na nagkaroon ng chemical change, it must undergo a chemical reaction. Sometimes in chemistry, reaction is abbreviated as RXN. So, kailangan magkaroon ng chemical reaction. Kapag nagkaroon ng chemical reaction, the composition is changed and it will not be the same as its original composition. So for example, burning or putting acid on a piece of paper. So these are examples of chemical change. Could you try to look around and see if you can find examples of physical change or chemical change in your environment? Can you give 2 examples each? Okay, I hope that you really understood our discussion regarding physical and chemical change. Now let us go back to your module, Skill Building Activities, Activity 2. Put a check if the following is chemical or physical change. So kapag sinabi natin na chemical change, nagkakaroon ng chemical reaction, the properties or its components are not the same as its original. And then kapag sinabi naman natin na physical change, pwedeng mabago ang kanyang size, pwedeng mabago ang kanyang texture, pero hindi pa rin nababago ang kanyang chemical properties, hindi pa rin nababago ang kanyang component. So kapag yung papel ginupit mo, papel pa rin yan kasi it is composed of the same material as its original state. So let's try to answer number 1 to 3. And then you're going to answer the rest until number 15. So gasoline burns in air. So ibig sabihin yung gasoline daw, it reacts with the oxygen in the air, kaya nagkakaroon ng burning. So this is chemical change. Next, the ice melts. The ice is removed from the freezer, kaya ibig sabihin inabsorb niya yung heat. Ang nangyari, yung ice naging liquid water. Pero ang kanyang component or physical makeup or kung saan siya gawa ay pareho pa rin. So this is physical change. Next, the milk sours. Nabago yung lasa ng gatas. So ibig sabihin, it deviates or naiba, nagkaroon ng changes sa kanyang characteristics, sa kanyang properties. So this is chemical change. Now I will leave you to work on your module, and then you're going to also check your answers based on the answer key which can be found at the end of your module. Also, answer, check your understanding. So thank you for listening. Now you can go back to answering your module. For queries, do not hesitate to ask. We're always here to guide you. So please drop a message during workdays at 8 to 5 p.m. if you have questions. So again, thank you.